The days inside the elven mansion passed slowly, but for Mira, every moment was part of a bigger plan. While the outside world saw her as a quiet housemaid, Mira was preparing for something far greater. Every night, after the mansion went quiet, and Jaren fell asleep in his luxury suite, Mira returned to her small staff room. Her walls were thin, and her bed was simple, but her desk was filled with digital notes, codes, and small hidden devices. She studied advanced business models, alien market trends, and artificial intelligence ethics. She read every major financial report and followed interplanetary trade routes. Her mind was sharp, and her will was steady. Mira had once been a child of a brilliant inventor. Her family was respected across Mars colonies for creating energy-efficient tech. But during a corporate conflict, their inventions were stolen and her parents disappeared. Mira had no money, no protection, just her knowledge and her name. To survive, she joined the lowest ranks, working as a cleaner in different corporate buildings. She kept her head down, listened to everything, and remembered every name. When she finally entered the elven mansion, she knew this was her chance to learn directly from the powerful. And from Jaren, she learned what not to become. Jeron, on the other hand, continued living in careless joy. He hosted more parties, spent large amounts on things he didn't need, and ignored every warning from his family's company managers. Elven Corporation is untouchable, he said to his guests. One evening, raising a glass of sparkling liquid, "We build the tech that runs Earth's capital. No one can touch us, not even the outer colonies." He didn't know the truth. Far away, on a trade station near Jupiter's moon, Mira's private investor group had begun acquiring silent shares of collapsing companies connected to Elven's supply chain. Her identity remained hidden. Her name was replaced by a code, Solentech Silent Lead A7. Mira wasn't alone. She had gained the trust of two alien venture brokers from the Orion system beings who valued logic, patience, and fairness. They had been impressed with her proposal to rebuild old Earth tech systems with ethical AI and smarter energy sources. Her plan wasn't just to rise, it was to rebuild. One morning, Jaren stormed into the dining hall, waving a glowing data pad. "Mira!" he called loudly. "Where is my assistant bot? My schedule's missing." Mira, already arranging the table, looked up calmly. "Your bot is recharging. It had a memory leak last night." Jaren groaned. "Ooh, why do I even pay for the best? If it can't remember my meetings?" Mira placed a warm plate of food in front of him. "I backed up your data last night, just in case," he blinked. "You did?" She nodded. "You said last week that the bot had been overheating. I ran a diagnostic after dinner." Jaren frowned for a moment, then waved it off. "Fine, at least someone here knows how to do their job." Mira gave a small smile and walked away. What Jaren didn't realize was that Mira's check on the bot wasn't just to help him. She had used it to access encrypted communications between the mansion and Elven's main office. There, she found signs of trouble, internal reports showing unstable profits, risky deals with unapproved alien traders, and warnings about foreign market freezes. Jaren's decisions were pushing the company toward danger, and he didn't even care. That night, Mira met her alien partners through another secret call. The signal was hidden inside the mansion's cleaning drone transmission. "The data is confirmed," Mira said. "Elven Corporation's foundation is shaking." The tall alien advisor on the screen leaned forward. "If your reading is accurate, it is the right time to move. Do we begin the Phase 1 takeover?" Mira nodded. "Yes," quietly. "I want no public attention until the ownership titles are ready. The mansion must transfer last." "And Jaren?" the alien asked. She paused. "He won't understand anything until it's done. He's still laughing at the idea that someone like me could own anything." The alien's eyes flashed gently. "Good, that laughter will end soon." Back in the mansion, Jaren decided to plan another grand party to celebrate a fake tech milestone, just for attention. He didn't notice that fewer guests were replying to his messages, or that some of his accounts were facing delays. He ignored the alert signs on his home panel that read, "Corporate clearance needed, property review pending." One evening, as Mira served drinks to Jaren and his guests, one of the rich daughters of a neighboring CEO asked a question. "So, Mira," the young woman said, holding her glass, "what's your dream again?" "Jaren told us you want to own a sky mansion, right?" Mira stood quietly, holding the tray. "Yes," she said. "One day I hope to." Laughter again. Not cruel, but amused. Jaren leaned back with a proud smirk. "She's always dreaming big, but she's a good worker. Just don't take her dreams too seriously." Mira met his eyes for a second. "I always take my dreams seriously," she said softly. Then she turned and walked away. Jaren watched her go but didn't think much of it. Later that night, while the music played and the guests danced under synthetic stars, Mira left the mansion quietly. She boarded a transport pod waiting near the back gate. The pod shot upward into the night sky, taking her to a private business lounge floating above the city. There, she signed 3 digital contracts. Her name was finally written as the executive owner of the new firm, Solon Technologies. Attached to the documents was a quiet legal agreement. If Elven Corporation failed to meet their alien contract terms by the end of the quarter, Mira's company would receive full rights to their assets, including Jaren's mansion. She looked out the window at the stars above and whispered, "This is just the beginning." A strange silence had settled inside the Elven mansion. The glowing halls, once full of rich guests and loud parties, now stood empty. Most of Jaren's friends had disappeared. The staff had left one by one, taken quiet exits after their payments stopped coming. The once perfect mansion now had flickering lights, slower cleaning drones, and half-functioning AI. Jaren Elven sat alone in the dining hall. The smart table didn't speak anymore. His food was cold, and the delivery drones often delayed orders. He shouted into the air, but the mansion's voice assistant only replied, "System resources limited. Please renew your premium service." He threw a metal spoon across the floor. How had this happened? It started slowly. First, his accounts got locked due to security checks. Then the company told him he was no longer allowed to make financial decisions. His father's last message had been short. "You've spent too much. The board has frozen your access." Jaren was furious but helpless. Now he had no one to blame but the quiet walls that echoed his past laughter. He tried contacting old friends, but they avoided his calls. To them, he was a problem, not a prince anymore. And still, in the middle of it all, he stayed in the mansion because it was the only thing he still thought he owned. Then came the day everything changed. It was just past noon when the mansion's gate alarm rang. Jaren looked up from his couch, confused. No one had visited in weeks. He opened the front camera feed and froze. A black hover convoy was parked at the main gate. 4 vehicles, sleek and silent, each marked with a new logo he didn't recognize. Solon Technologies. From the lead vehicle stepped out a figure in a sharp black suit, hair tied neatly behind her head, carrying a digital briefcase in one hand. It was Myra. Jeron stood up slowly, shocked. His former housemaid, dressed like a business leader. Behind her, 3 more people followed, 2 legal officers and a tall alien with shining silver skin. The gate scanned Myra's ID card. Identity confirmed. Executive owner Mira Solon. Welcome. The gates opened. Jaren's heart dropped. What is this? He muttered. He rushed to the front entrance as the group stepped inside. Mira walked calmly, eyes observing every part of the mansion she once cleaned. Her face showed no pride, no revenge, just quiet strength. Jaren opened the door. "What's going on?" he demanded. Mira looked at him. Her voice was calm, just as it had always been. "Hello, Jaren. I'm here for the final inspection." "Final what?" The mansion was included in Elvin's collapsed assets. Solon Technologies has completed its legal acquisition. As of today, this estate is under my ownership, Jaren blinked. "No, that's not possible. This is my house." Mira turned. To the legal officer, the man handed Jaren a digital file. "These are the documents. Signed by your father, confirmed by the Earth-Mars Council, and approved by the Off-World Trade Authority." Jaren stared at the file. The words burned his eyes. "Transfer complete. Owner, Mira Solon." He stumbled backward. "You tricked us. You used your job here to steal." Mira's eyes didn't change. "No, I observed. I studied. I invested. You mocked my dreams, but I never stopped working on them." Jaren's face turned red. "This is my legacy." Mira took a deep breath. "No, Jaren, you didn't build this legacy. You wasted it. You partied while your company fell apart. You ignored warnings. And while you laughed at me, I was building something real." The silver-skinned alien beside her spoke. "Under Mira's leadership, Solon Technologies has created clean AI systems now used in 3 colonies. Her work is not just business, it is rebuilding trust in technology." Jaren couldn't speak. Mira looked around the entrance hall. "I'll allow you to stay here for now under one condition." "What condition?" he asked bitterly. "You move to the staff quarters," she said. "You will no longer live as the master of this place." Jaren stared at her in disbelief. "You're kicking me out of my own room?" "It's not your room anymore," Mira said gently. "And maybe it's time you learned what it feels like to start from the bottom." The next few hours moved quickly. Solon Technologies setup team arrived with new drones, scanners, and AI modules. Old Elven symbols were removed, replaced by clean silver logos with Mira's name on them. Walls were updated, the main hall redesigned, and the central AI core reset. The mansion's voice changed. "Welcome back, Executive Mira. All systems are now active." Jaren watched as his former kingdom was transformed. The furniture changed. The luxury rooms turned into meeting spaces. Even the garden was repurposed into a clean energy lab testing zone. And his room? It was now an operations center for Myra's team. He packed his things and moved into the small room at the back, the same one Myra used to sleep in. It was a strange feeling. The bed was smaller, the air cooler, the lights dimmer. There was no fancy screen, no voice assistant to greet him. Jaren sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the weight of everything. Later that evening, Mira walked past his room. She paused, then knocked gently on the open door. He looked up. "I didn't do this to hurt you," she said. Jero and didn't reply. "I did it because I believed in something more. You laughed at dreams, but dreams are powerful when someone works hard for them." He looked away. "So what now?" "You learn," Mira said, "or you leave." She walked away. And for the first time in a long time, Jaren didn't feel like laughing. For the next 2 weeks, Mira worked quietly but with clear purpose. While the old mansion slowly fell apart from neglect, Mira was busy rebuilding herself and something more. Every day she met with advisors, business planners, and solar engineers. Every night, she studied new reports, new ideas, and new maps. Her phone hardly rested. Her mind never slowed. She wasn't just working on her dream anymore. She was turning it into a future. Meanwhile, Jaren's life took a different turn. Since his father had handed over the estate and company management to Myra, Jaren had been pushed to the sidelines. No more bodyguards, no more servants, no more easy money. He still lived inside the mansion, but now it felt colder, quieter. The halls echoed without purpose. He missed the feeling of control. He missed people laughing at his jokes, not because they were funny, but because they were scared to displease him. He tried to call his friends, but many stopped answering. Without his father's money or status, Jaron was no longer interesting to them. One afternoon, Jaron tried to walk into his father's old office, just to sit and feel important again. But the door was locked. He turned to a nearby guard. "Why, is the office locked?" The guard looked calm but firm. "Miss Mira asked for security to limit access. She uses it now." Jaron blinked. "Mira? That's my—" He stopped. No, he had no power now. He walked away, feeling a strange tightness in his chest. That night, Jaron saw Mira in the dining room. She was alone, reading a thick file, sipping coffee. He walked in, trying to act casual. "Planning another science fair?" he asked with a smirk. Mira looked up, calm as ever. "No, I'm preparing for a government deal," he scoffed. "Let me guess. More solar stuff? You really think you can change the world with a few shiny panels?" Mira closed the file and placed it gently on the table. "You still don't understand," she said softly. "This isn't just about energy. It's about giving people control over their own lives. Power in their homes, clean air, better futures." Jaron rolled his eyes. "Sounds like a school speech." Mira stood up, her eyes steady. "You're free to laugh, Jaron, but in 3 days, ministers from the SolarNet initiative will visit this mansion. And if the project gets accepted, this house, your house, will become their headquarters." He stared at her, stunned. "You're turning this into a tech hub?" She nodded. "Exactly." Jaron didn't know what to say. Myra walked past him and added gently, "Mocking others is easy. Building something real is harder. Try it sometime." 3 days later, the mansion looked like a different place. Walls had been cleaned, furniture polished. The grand hall, once used for Jaron's parties, was now filled with presentation screens, models, and technical blueprints. Mira stood at the center in a simple white suit, her hair tied back neatly. She looked calm, focused, nothing like the housemaid Jaron used to mock. Ministers and energy officials arrived. Their suits were sharp, their expressions serious. But Mira welcomed them with confidence and clarity. She spoke about the rising need for off-grid energy systems. She shared her plan to use the mansion as a test base for smart solar infrastructure. She even introduced the first prototype, a solar tree that could power 10 homes from a single post. The guests were impressed. They asked questions. Mira answered each one with facts and calm authority. Jaron watched all this from a distance, hiding behind a column. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This was Mira, the girl who once mopped his floors. Now she stood like a leader, guiding experts and decision-makers, and they were listening. By the end of the visit, the lead minister approached Mira and shook her hand. "We'll recommend your plan to the board," he said. "With your permission, we'd like to launch the pilot phase here next month." Mira smiled. "You have my full support." Cameras clicked. Reporters took notes. The story was out now. Jaron slowly walked back to his room, feeling smaller than ever. That evening, as the sun set behind the trees, Mira sat alone in the garden with a cup of tea. The cool breeze carried the scent of fresh grass and flowers. Jaron approached quietly and sat across from her. There was a long silence between them. Finally he spoke. "I didn't think you'd actually do it." Mira didn't look surprised. "Most people didn't." "I was wrong," he admitted. "About you, about everything." Mira gave a small nod. "Thank you." He looked down. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "What made you keep going? Even after how I treated you, after everything?" Mira looked at the sky, then back at him. "I didn't keep going because of what you did. I kept going in spite of it. My dreams weren't for your approval. They were mine." Jaron said nothing. "I used to be invisible in this house," she added. "Now I'm building something bigger than all of us. Not out of revenge, but to show others that they don't have to stay small." That night, Mira looked out from her office window. The mansion lights glowed warmly. People walked through its halls with purpose. It had become a place of growth, not luxury. For her, this was only the beginning. The world was full of broken places and forgotten people, and she had the tools to make a difference, one solar tree at a time. The mansion no longer belonged to Jaren Elvin. The change was complete. The glowing walls, once filled with Jaren's favorite party colors, now showed clean silver blue light. The noisy music had been replaced with soft hums of machines doing real work. Every room now had a purpose: research, development, testing, planning. Mira Solon, once mocked as a housemaid, now walked the halls as the proud and focused owner of Solon Technologies. Her dream had come true. But it wasn't just about owning the mansion, it was about using it for something better. Each morning, Mira gathered her team in the central hall, now turned into a command center. Digital maps floated in the air, showing progress on their new projects. Solon Technologies was working on clean energy AI, smart infrastructure for colonies, and fair tech for small cities on Earth. Mira's leadership was clear and strong. She listened more than she spoke. She didn't waste time. She gave credit to her team and made every person feel like they mattered. Even Jaren noticed it. He watched from a distance, sitting quietly near the side hall or walking through the back corridors. He had been allowed to stay, but under Mira's condition, he now lived in the staff quarters and helped with maintenance. It was a big change. Jaren, once the spoiled heir, now woke up early to clean panels, fix cables, and even deliver tools to the engineers working inside his former luxury rooms. At first, he did it with anger and pride. He barely spoke to anyone. But as days passed, something started to shift inside him. One afternoon, Jaren was carrying a box of parts to the garden lab, once his personal lounge area. As he walked, he saw a group of engineers working on a new solar AI core. They laughed as they tested code, shared ideas, and adjusted small devices that glowed with clean light. One of them, a woman named Rila, waved at him. "Hey, Jaren, bring that here." He walked over and placed the box on the table. "Thanks," she said, smiling. "You know, you've got good timing." "Want to stay and help?" Jaren looked surprised. "Me? Help?" "Sure," Rila said. "You've lived in this mansion longer than anyone. You know where everything is." He stayed. And for the first time in weeks, Jaren felt useful. Later that day, Mira walked past the lab and noticed Jaren adjusting one of the old cooling units. She paused, watching from a distance. Rila whispered, "He's not as bad as I thought." Mira nodded slowly. He just needed to face reality. Sometimes falling is the only way to learn how to stand. Days turned into weeks. Jaren began doing more around the mansion, not because he was forced, but because he wanted to. He asked questions. He listened to team discussions. He even read Mira's white papers at night, trying to understand the kind of work she was leading. He remembered the moment he used to laugh at her dreams. Now he felt ashamed of how blind he had been. One evening, after helping repair a server core, Jaren found Mira on the rooftop garden. The stars above were bright, and the city lights below looked like tiny rivers of fire. He stood quietly for a moment, then walked closer. "Can I join you?" he asked. Mira looked up and nodded. He sat beside her on the bench. "I used to sit here and think I had everything," Jaren said. "Turns out, I didn't even know what everything meant." Mira didn't speak. She let him talk. "I used to think dreams were a joke, that only people like me deserved success. But you built something, you earned it, and I never saw it coming." Mira finally spoke. "That's because you never looked past what you wanted to see." Jaren nodded. "You're right. And I'm sorry." There was silence again. Not heavy, just real. Mira looked at him. "What do you want now, Jaren?" He thought for a moment. "I want to learn. I want to do something real." She studied his face. It wasn't the proud, laughing boy she used to know. This was someone different. Someone changing. Then start fresh, she said. No special treatment, no shortcuts. Earn your place, just like everyone else here. He smiled faintly. That sounds fair. From that day on, Jaren truly joined the team. He took beginner classes from Myra's teaching AI. He worked on small projects. He helped organize materials, update code, and run simple tests. He asked Mira for advice, not as a boss, not as an old maid, but as someone he respected deeply. And Mira gave it, not with pride or payback, but with honesty and care. She had waited years to prove herself. But now she saw that true victory wasn't just taking over the mansion, it was helping others grow. Even those who once looked down on her. Soon, Solon Technologies became known across Earth and nearby colonies. People admired Mira's ideas, her fairness, and her focus on clean progress. Investors supported her work. Governments trusted her tech. And more importantly, young people everywhere saw her as a symbol that anyone, no matter their past, could rise with hard work and patience. Even reporters started writing about her. One called her the dreamer who bought her castle. Mira simply smiled when she read it, because it wasn't just a castle she had earned. It was her future. The mansion was no longer just a house. It had become a powerful symbol of change. Inside its silver walls, ideas moved faster than ever. Holograms floated through the air. Engineers tested new AI models. Clean energy labs buzzed with quiet machines. And at the center of it all stood Mira Solon, focused, calm, and respected. Everywhere she went, people greeted her with respect. She had become more than just a company owner. She was now a leader. Her voice was listened to in colony meetings. Her advice was requested in government circles. She never shouted, never showed off, yet her presence carried more weight than anyone expected. But even as her empire grew, she never forgot where she started. Jaren Elvin continued his new life quiet, simple, and honest. He now wore a basic gray uniform like the other staff members. No more designer clothes or shining boots. He shared meals with engineers, fixed wires, cleaned data rooms, and learned every day. It was not easy. There were moments when Jaren wanted to give up. Times when he remembered his old life, fancy food, loud music, soft beds. But then he would walk through the research wing, see Mira standing beside her team, building something for the future, and feel a new kind of strength inside him. This was real. He wasn't pretending anymore. He was becoming someone better. One morning, Mira gathered her team in the main hall. The floating screen behind her showed a message blinking in red. SolarNet International Challenge. Final round, 72 hours remaining. SolarNet was a global competition, sponsored by the Interplanetary Tech Council. It was created to find the best new idea in clean AI systems. Hundreds of companies had entered. Now only 3 remained. Solon Technologies was one of them. Mira looked at her team. This is our moment. We've come far, but now we must finish strong. Everyone nodded. Jaren stood in the back, listening. He didn't understand all the tech details, but he understood one thing. This was serious. Mira continued. We need speed, accuracy, and teamwork. If we win, it won't just be about money, it will be about trust. The world will see what we stand for. The next 48 hours were intense. The mansion turned into a full operations center. Staff worked in shifts. AI systems were checked again and again. Codes were tested, adjusted, and rebuilt. Meals were quick and sleep was short. Jaren did whatever he could, moving parts, running messages, setting up cables, even cleaning the floors to keep dust away from sensitive sensors. But late that night, Mira found him sitting in the hallway, tired and frustrated. Everything all right? She asked. He looked up. I just feel useless. I try to help, but I'm not smart like the others. I don't understand half the things they're doing. Mira sat beside him. You don't need to be an expert to be valuable, Jaren. You're part of this. You've changed. He sighed. But what if I mess something up? She looked at him kindly. You messed up before. And you learned from it. That's what matters. He smiled faintly. I never thought I'd hear that from you. She stood and held out her hand. Then get back up. We're not finished yet. He took her hand and stood. Yes, ma'am. As the final day arrived, tension filled the air. Mira's team submitted their project with 2 hours to spare a new AI model that could reduce energy waste in planetary cities by 42%. It used a system of smart decision trees and clean solar cores. Now, all they could do was wait. The results would be announced by hologram the next morning. That night, Mira stood on the mansion's rooftop, again staring at the stars. The same place she used to stand alone as a maid, dreaming of something more. Jeroen joined her. You nervous? He asked. She nodded. A little. Not because of the result, but because of what it means. He leaned against the railing. You've already won, Mira. No matter what happens tomorrow, you've done something amazing. She glanced at him. And so have you. He looked surprised. Me? Yes, you learned humility. You chose growth over pride. That takes courage. Jaren looked at the sky. You know, back then, when I mocked your dreams, I really thought you were chasing something impossible. Mira smiled softly. Many people did. But dreams don't die just because others laugh at them. They stood there in silence, watching the stars. The next morning, the mansion's main screen flashed to life. Everyone gathered in the hall, engineers, AI assistants, interns, and even cleaning bots. A soft voice echoed. The winner of the SolarNet International Challenge is... There was a pause. Everyone held their breath. Solon Technologies. Cheers broke out across the room. Claps, shouts, happy tears. Staff hugged each other. Lights flashed in celebration mode. Drones flew in circles, releasing soft confetti. Mira closed her eyes for a moment, taking in the sound. Then she turned to her team. We did this. Together. News of the win spread fast. Articles appeared, from Housemaid to Tech Queen Myra. Solon shocks the galaxy. Elven Mansion becomes brain center of clean AI future. Governments called. Colony leaders sent offers. Investors requested meetings, but Mira stayed focused. She rejected deals that didn't align with her values. She reminded her team, we're not here to sell power. We're here to build it responsibly. As for Jaren, he continued to work quietly. But something had changed in the way others looked at him. He was no longer the spoiled heir. He was part of something meaningful now. That evening, Mira stood in the great hall as people packed up for the night. Jaren walked up to her. I just wanted to say, thank you. Mira turned. For what? For not giving up on me, he said. For teaching me through your actions, not just your words. She nodded. You taught yourself, Jaren. I only gave you space to see it. He smiled. Still, I'll never forget what you've done. Mira looked around the hall, the same hall where she once served drinks while being mocked. Now, she was leading a team changing the world. And she said, quietly but proudly, neither will I. Weeks passed since Solon Technologies won the SolarNet International Challenge. The victory brought not only global attention, but also great responsibility. Mira stood in her private office, once the master bedroom of the old mansion. She had kept its simple glass walls, white furniture, and shelves filled with books and project files. Her face looked calm, but her eyes were sharp, focused. Outside, the courtyard buzzed with activity. New staff members were arriving. Construction. Bots built additional labs. The mansion was growing not just in size, but in meaning. Mira knew this was only the beginning. Jaren walked through the east wing, checking the energy panels. He wore a dark gray utility suit and carried a digital tool belt. No one ordered him to do these tasks. He chose to help because it mattered to him now. His face had changed. He smiled more. He listened more. He even began helping interns when they had questions, often telling them, "I used to know nothing too." Some of them didn't believe him. They had heard of the spoiled heir who once mocked a maid's dreams, but it was hard to see that. Same person now. Later that afternoon, Mira called for a full team meeting. Everyone gathered in the main hall again. Engineers, designers, assistants, even the chefs who made meals for the staff. Mira stood at the front with a soft smile. "I want to thank all of you," she said. "This mansion isn't just a place anymore. It's a home, a lab, a symbol of hope." People clapped. A few cheered. She continued, "But now we must decide where to go next. We can stay here, expand, and help Earth's colonies, or we can take a bigger step." A hologram floated above her palm, showing a large glowing sphere. Lunara Station. The first moon base in Sector 9. They need help building clean energy grids. They've invited us to lead the project. Murmurs spread in the room. Lunara was a big deal. Harsh climate. High risk, but high reward. Mira looked around the room. "I won't force anyone. If we stay, we grow. If we go, we lead. I want you to choose." Later that night, Mira walked on the back lawn, lost in thought. The wind was gentle, the stars bright. The grass under her feet still felt like a dream. She heard footsteps behind her. Jaren joined her silently, holding 2 cups of warm tea. "Thanks," she said, taking one. "I heard about Lunara," Jaren said. "That's big." "It is," she replied, "and risky." He sipped the tea. "What will you do if most people choose to stay?" "I'll go anyway," she said, "even if I have to start again. That place needs help, and I know how that feels." Jaren looked at her. "Then I'll go with you." She turned. "Are you sure?" He smiled. "I mocked your dreams once. I won't make that mistake again." By the end of the week, 80% of the staff signed up to join the Lunara mission. The mansion was turned into a hybrid hub, part research center, part training base for new recruits. Mira handed daily leadership of the Earth Division to a trusted partner and focused fully on Luna Ray. Jeron trained under senior engineers to prepare for the moon's environment. For the first time in his life, he felt real excitement for something bigger than himself. Before they left, Mira held a quiet farewell. At the mansion, she walked through each room, touching walls, glancing at windows, smiling softly. The same rooms where she once cleaned floors were now filled with energy and invention. As she stepped out the front doors one last time, she whispered, "Thank you for the lessons." The journey to Lunara took 3 days by orbital shuttle. The moonbase was surrounded by sharp mountains and a silver sky. Everything looked gray, cold, and quiet, but Mira saw potential. She and her team started at once. They built energy towers, tested solar skins, and introduced AI-powered light grids to help crops grow in the cold. Locals on the station welcomed them with open arms. Some had heard of Mira's past and respected her more because of it. Even children pointed and said, "That's the dream lady." One evening, while setting up the final AI core for Lunara's city center, Jaren stood with Mira on the roof of the new station dome. They looked out at the stars, just like they did at the mansion. "It's strange," Jaren said. "We're so far from Earth, but I feel more at home than ever." Mira nodded. "Home isn't a place, it's the journey." He glanced at her. "I used to think wealth meant gold, big cars, and being the loudest in the room. And now?" she asked. "Now I think it's peace, purpose, and standing beside people who make you better." Mira smiled. In time, Lunara became a model colony for sustainable living. Mira was invited to speak at the Intergalactic Innovation Forum. Her face appeared in magazines, her story told in classrooms, but she always reminded people of one thing: dreams have no rank, No title, they just need belief. On the 5th anniversary of Solon Technologies, a surprise event was held back at the mansion. Mira returned, now a legend. But she walked in with the same calm grace. The hall was decorated with photos from her journey, from the old cleaning days to the Lunara. Base. One picture stood tall at the center. It showed her and Jaren standing side by side on the moon, holding a flag that read, "From mockery to mission, we rise together." That night, as guests clapped and lights dimmed, Mira stepped forward and gave her final speech. "I was once told I was just a maid. I cleaned floors, carried trays, and lived in silence. But dreams don't care where you start. They only care that you don't stop." She turned to Jaren. "And sometimes, even those who mocked you can change and become your greatest support." Jaren smiled and nodded, tears in his eyes. As the music played and stars blinked overhead, Mira knew one thing for certain. She had turned mockery into momentum, pain into progress, and a mansion into a mission. And her journey was just beginning. For the next 2 weeks, Mira worked quietly but with clear purpose. While the old mansion slowly fell apart from neglect, Mira was busy rebuilding herself and something more. Every day she met with advisors, business planners, and solar engineers. Every night, she studied new reports, new ideas, and new maps. Her phone hardly rested. Her mind never slowed. She wasn't just working on her dream anymore. She was turning it into a future. Meanwhile, Jaren's life took a different turn. Since his father had handed over the estate and company management to Mira, Jaren had been pushed to the sidelines. No more bodyguards, no more servants, no more easy money. He still lived inside the mansion, but now it felt colder, quieter. The halls echoed without purpose. He missed the feeling of control. He missed people laughing at his jokes, not because they were funny, but because they were scared to displease him. He tried to call his friends, but many stopped answering. Without his father's money or status, Jaren was no longer interesting to them. One afternoon, Jaren tried to walk into his father's old office, just to sit and feel important again. But the door was locked. He turned to a nearby guard. "Why, is the office locked?" The guard looked calm but firm. "Miss Myra asked for security to limit access. She uses it now." Jaren blinked. "Mira? That's my—" He stopped. No, he had no power now. He walked away, feeling a strange tightness in his chest. That night, Jaren saw Mira in the dining room. She was alone, reading a thick file, sipping coffee. He walked in, trying to act casual. "Planning another science fair?" he asked with a smirk. Mira looked up, calm as ever. "No, I'm preparing for a government deal," he scoffed. "Let me guess. More solar stuff? You really think you can change the world with a few shiny panels?" Mira closed the file and placed it gently on the table. "You still don't understand," she said softly. "This isn't just about energy. It's about giving people control over their own lives. Power in their homes, clean air, better futures." Jaren rolled his eyes. "Sounds like a school speech." Mira stood up, her eyes steady. "You're free to laugh, Jaren, but in 3 days, ministers from the SolarNet initiative will visit this mansion. And if the project gets accepted, this house, your house, will become their headquarters." He stared at her, stunned. "You're turning this into a tech hub?" She nodded. "Exactly." Jaren didn't know what to say. Mira walked past him and added gently, "Mocking others is easy. Building something real is harder. Try it sometime." 3 days later, the mansion looked like a different place. Walls had been cleaned, furniture polished. The grand hall, once used for Jaren's parties, was now filled with presentation screens, models, and technical blueprints. Mira stood at the center in a simple white suit, her hair tied back neatly. She looked calm, focused, nothing like the housemaid Jaren used to mock. Ministers and energy officials arrived. Their suits were sharp, their expressions serious. But Mira welcomed them with confidence and clarity. She spoke about the rising need for off-grid energy systems. She shared her plan to use the mansion as a test base for smart solar infrastructure. She even introduced the first prototype, a solar tree that could power 10 homes from a single post. The guests were impressed. They asked questions. Mira answered each one with facts and calm authority. Jaron watched all this from a distance, hiding behind a column. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This was Mira, the girl who once mopped his floors. Now she stood like a leader, guiding experts and decision-makers, and they were listening. By the end of the visit, the lead minister approached Mira and shook her hand. "We'll recommend your plan to the board," he said. "With your permission, we'd like to launch the pilot phase here next month." Mira smiled. "You have my full support." Cameras clicked. Reporters took notes. The story was out now. Jaron slowly walked back to his room, feeling smaller than ever. That evening, as the sun set behind the trees, Mira sat alone in the garden with a cup of tea. The cool breeze carried the scent of fresh grass and flowers. Jaron approached quietly and sat across from her. There was a long silence between them. Finally he spoke. "I didn't think you'd actually do it." Mira didn't look surprised. Most people didn't. "I was wrong," he admitted. "About you, about everything." Mira gave a small nod. "Thank you." He looked down. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "What made you keep going? Even after how I treated you, after everything?" Mira looked at the sky, then back at him. "I didn't keep going because of what you did. I kept going in spite of it. My dreams weren't for your approval. They were mine." Jaron said nothing. "I used to be invisible in this house," she added. "Now I'm building something bigger than all of us. Not out of revenge, but to show others that they don't have to stay small." That night, Mira looked out from her office window. The mansion lights glowed warmly. People walked through its halls with purpose. It had become a place of growth, not luxury. For her, this was only the beginning. The world was full of broken places and forgotten people. And she had the tools to make a difference, one solar tree at a time.